Well, obviously you know from that little snippet at the beginning what we're going to be making today. And also, look at my hat. I have a pretzel hat on. This was a gift from my daughter. So she didn't know I was doing this video. This was just a gift she gave me because she knows I like hats and I wear hats on my videos. So really good timing. Now, the first thing I'm going to be working on today for these pretzels with this beer cheese sauce is the beer cheese sauce. You could totally reverse this. You could get the pretzels all made and then do the beer cheese sauce, and it would be hot and you wouldn't have to keep it warm. But I've got a little sort of small crock pot thing that I can keep the cheese sauce warm in. So I'm gonna get that out of the way first, and then we'll move on to the pretzels. And one thing I wanna say here first, you will probably see when I make my pretzels, they're not gonna be the most perfectly formed. They're not gonna look like those ones that super duper bakers make. These are gonna taste great. And I don't think you should aim for perfection in the way something always looks when you're making something like this. This is really about enjoying the process, making pretzels that are gonna taste great, and beer cheese sauce that's gonna taste great. So let's head over to the stove and get this beer cheese sauce ready. So I have a medium sort of saucepan here on my stove, and the heat is at medium, maybe just a slight bit below medium. We're gonna go ahead and get our ingredients in, starting with a 1/4 cup of unsalted butter. Just gonna move that around, let that start to melt. To this, I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And we wanna stir this in here. I'm also gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder. You just wanna keep stirring this. We don't want anything to burn. To this, I'm gonna add a pint of half and half, a little bit at a time here. Stir that in. Want everything to thicken up without burning. Now I'm going to add a cup of German beer, dark German beer that I cannot pronounce, but you'll see it on the screen here so you can read it. And we want our heat about medium here because we do want to bring this up till it's bubbling and starts to thicken. I'm also going to add 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. You could pick a different mustard if you want to. And about a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. And we're gonna let this cook over about medium heat until we get those nice bubbles in there and it's starting to thicken. We got some nice bubbles going here. Our sauce is thickening, and we're gonna add our cheese, but first we're gonna turn this down to low. I'm gonna start adding my cheese a little bit at a time. First comes 10 ounces of an extra sharp cheddar cheese. We're just gonna stir. Help this start to melt in there. You do want to make sure that your burner is actually on low here because we don't want to burn anything at this stage. We just want this cheese to melt and incorporate nicely. Now you could use any sort of cheese you like that actually melts. Some cheeses aren't great at this, but I think cheddar, and I'm going to be using Gruyere here in just a minute, they go really nicely in this. You don't want to feel any lumps. You want to make sure you stir that so that cheese really starts to melt. Now I'm going to add our Gruyere. This is an apple smoked Gruyere cheese. It's 8 ounces, and this is all freshly shredded. I got blocks and shredded it myself. That's really the best kind to use. You don't have any other additives that are added to keep the pre-shredded ones from sticking together. Mix in our Gruyere. Gruyere? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I think it's Gruyere. Boy, this is thickening really nicely. This is going to be a very luscious cheese sauce. Get the rest of our Gruyere in here and stir it in. It already has a little bit of that smoky smell coming off here from that apple smoked cheese. Oh, that smells fantastic. Just want to really stir this, make sure everything melts. A whisk is a good thing for this because if you lift it up, you can see, are there any chunks that are just not melted? This is really doing well. It's got to give it a little more time here on low. And then I'm going to transfer this to a small crock pot that I have, which is really just for keeping sauces warm. It's not for really cooking anything long term. It only goes on low. But first, let's get a little taste. I am not a super huge melted cheese fan. I usually don't even put cheese on most of my burgers. This is really good. So I'm gonna go ahead, stir this for just a couple more minutes, and then I'm gonna transfer it to my crock pot to keep warm, and we're gonna move on to making our pretzels. So I have my stand mixer here on the counter. Now you could totally do this by hand, but I have a stand mixer and it is much easier to do it like this. If you do not have a stand mixer and you are really wanting to get into baking or making pretzels or hamburger buns or anything like that, a stand mixer is a really nice thing to have. And you can sometimes get them on pretty good deals. I got this from Costco. Normally on Amazon or a place like that, this is going for over $600. I got it at Costco for $347. So not cheap, but a lot less than some places. So first ingredient here in our mixer is 1.5 cups of warm water. That's about 110 to 115 degrees. This is 110 degree water. 4 tablespoons of melted unsalted butter. 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. 1 tablespoon of sugar. And 2 1/4 teaspoons of instant yeast. This is one of those packages of instant yeast. We're just gonna get our mixer ready to go here. I'm gonna set my speed to low and we're gonna start adding a little bit at a time, 4.5 cups of flour. Now I'm using a bread flour, but all-purpose flour is fine here. One thing you wanna do is when you're getting to that stage that you think it might be done is you've gotta look at it and see, is it too sticky? Add a little more flour, a little bit at a time. Or does it need more liquid? Is it too dry? A little bit of water, a little bit at a time. You'll get used to this and having a feel for it. Environment can really have an effect on it, how humid it is. So you gotta kind of play it by ear. So I'm gonna start this on low speed with my dough hook. Stop it for a second here, and I just want to kind of scrape the sides down. Start it back up. Now, by looks, I can tell it needs just a little more water, so I'm going to add maybe a teaspoon or 2 of water, and then we're just going to keep going. All right, I'm gonna increase my speed to medium and let these go for about 3 or 4 minutes. This is what we're looking for. You can see it's a little tacky, but it is not sticky. So I have a glass bowl here, and what I'm gonna do is just hit this with a little bit of spray, an oil spray. I'm using olive oil, you could use canola oil or anything. Gonna put our dough in here and just kind of roll it around just so it gets coated there. Now I'm gonna cover this with plastic wrap and we're gonna let this rest for 45 minutes to an hour until it's maybe doubled in size. So I'll see you back here in about 45 minutes or an hour when we start forming our pretzels and getting them ready to go in the oven. So our pretzel dough has been resting for about 45 minutes here, and we've got a good rise on it. Let me get the cover off. And this is not a test pattern you're looking at down here. This is my pastry mat, so I'm gonna dump this out on here so we can divide it up into 8 pieces. We're gonna do 8 large pretzels today. So I just want to kind of form this into a little bit of a cylinder, which will make it easier to cut into size, because I'm going to want 8 pieces roughly the same size. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in half right here. Then cut each of those roughly in half. Then cut each of those roughly in half. I'm going to move our pieces off to the side that I'm not working with right now and cover them with a piece of plastic wrap just to help prevent them from drying out quickly. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Over on the stove, I have 10 cups of water just about ready to boil, and that will get us ready to get the pretzels prepared for going into the oven. The oven is preheated to 450 degrees. Now I want to take my piece here and I just want to roll it out. I want to get a nice long piece of dough here. And please remember what I said earlier about perfection not being the name of the game here. It's going to taste great. If these pretzels don't look like pretzels you've purchased or had in a restaurant or a pretzel stand, don't worry about it. You can get better with time. I am definitely not perfect. I will guarantee that. So that's roughly what I'm looking for here. Now what I'm going to do is take the dough here, just form sort of a big long U shape. Bring this over, twist it like that, maybe pinch the end together, and that's it. We're not going for a fancy interlocking, tied, twisted shape, just this kind of pretzel shape. Now this is going to go on a baking sheet that has parchment paper with a light spray of oil on it. I used olive oil, you can use canola oil, and this is just going to rest there while I form the rest of our pretzels, and then we're going to get them into our water and baking soda mixture. Once again, we're going to roll. Form our U shape. Bring it over, and twist and press. Just like that. All right, I'm going to finish the rest of these, and I'll meet you over at the stove where we are going to get these boiled up to go in the oven. So I have 4 of the pretzels here, 4 on another baking sheet with the parchment paper. This is exactly how they're going to bake in our 450 degree oven. First, we have to get them into 10 cups of boiling water that we are going to add 2/3 of a cup of baking soda to. Now, there's going to be a little fizzing potentially when you add that baking soda. Don't worry about that. That's natural. And we're going to do these 2 at a time for 30 seconds. So after 30 seconds, just take them out, put them right back on this parchment paper. As soon as they're all done, we're going to give them a little bit of an egg wash and sprinkle some flaky sea salt on them and then get them in the oven. And they're going to go in the oven for probably 12 to 15 minutes. I've found my oven usually takes about 15 minutes. Your oven may be different, but one thing you can do is you can check internal temperature on these if you need to. 205 is done, somewhere in that 200, 205 range, but really it's that color you want, that golden brown sort of pretzel color. And the outside should be firm, but not hard. So let's go ahead, head over to the stove, get these pretzels boiled up. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my baking soda here, and remember, it might fizz. And I'm gonna get these in 2 at a time for 30 seconds. We're gonna get these first 2 out of here. Get 2 more in. All right, so our pretzels are boiled, and the reason for the baking soda is, I'm not sure. I've seen different recipes, some use that, some don't. The recipes I've tried that use it seem to come out the best, so that's what I'm sticking with. I'm sure it's some sort of chemical thing with the surface of the pretzels and helping set that dough. But you can see they look pretty good here. They're not perfect, as I said. They don't need to be perfect. They just need to taste great. So let's go ahead and we're going to hit these with an egg wash. Now this is 1 egg yolk beaten with 1 tablespoon of water. And this is just going to help with that color, but also to give something for our sea salt to stick to. We're going to put some flaky sea salt on this. And just sprinkle some sea salt, or actually anything you want. If you have another kind of salt you like, go ahead. Maybe some smoked salt. Could hit it with a little Parmesan cheese that's grated. Really, it's up to you. Anything you think that will taste good that won't burn in a 450 degree oven, that should work. Tray number 2. And you can see that some of these pretzels are bigger than others, so they're going to be maybe a slightly different cook time. That's all right. That's why I said you can check internal temperature if you need to. 205 degrees. Some more sprinkling here, good salt. You don't even really have to do salt if you don't want to, but pretzels and salt, come on, those go together. All right, our oven is at 450 degrees. We're gonna go ahead and pop these in. And like I said, we're gonna check them 12 to 15 minutes. When you start getting that color you want, if you wanna temp them, go ahead. Like I said, my oven, I know what it is. Every oven's a little different, so you may have to check. But let's get these in so we have some pretzels to taste with that beer cheese sauce. So here are our finished pretzels. I'm gonna transfer these and the others to a wire cooling rack, let them cool down for about 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes. Then we're gonna get some cheese sauce out here, that beer cheese sauce, and we're gonna have a taste. All right, here we go. I've got a couple pretzels here, and you can just see they turned out really nice, great color on them. And this is what you're looking for, that sort of darkish brown without burned, where it's just like almost getting to the burn stage. I have some of our cheese sauce here, our beer cheese sauce, and I sprinkled some chili powder on the top because I like chili powder. Let's have a taste. Let's break into our pretzel. That is pillowy. This is a soft pretzel. This is the way you want it. Hard pretzels are a different thing that you make, a different method of making them. This is the way I like pretzels. Let's go ahead and dip in here and have a taste. Let's see. That's fantastic. A really nice hint of that dark beer in there and that Gruyere, that smoky flavor. I just love that addition to this. The enjoyment out of these is well worth the effort. And like I said, not perfect. These don't look like pretzels you might find in a professional bakery, but man, they taste good. And it is fun to make them. I'm all about enjoyment. I want to enjoy the cooking process, enjoy what it comes out tasting like. If it doesn't look perfect, I'm not worried. I just want it to taste great.